What's cracking, y'all? I put the KO in Jeiko.
We finish him!
And that's a knockout. Let's get it. So, we gonna talk about the recently revealed Street Fighter trailer that was shown at the Game Awards. Yeah, I mean? So let's talk about what we just saw. First impressions, it's pretty hype. The song choice for the trailer, Punk Tactics by Joey Valence and Bray, had me like... Seems like for the most part, Legendary Entertainment is going more along the lines with the 1994 cult classic Street Fighter. And from what I see, the film is very camp, which makes sense because the games themselves were heavily inspired by 1970s Kung Fu films. Guile and Ken Masters are supposed to be heavily inspired by 1980s action heroes. We got a few quick glimpses of Ryu, Chun-Li, Ken, Balrog, Guile, Vega, Bison, Zangief, you name it. And I gotta say, some of these actors look great. In my personal opinion, I think the actress portraying Chun-Li definitely embodies her elegant, stoic demeanor perfectly. The cat that they got for Zangief, from what I gathered, dude is a Dutch bodybuilder and an actor standing at 7 foot 2 inches tall. Main man had the big dog looking up at him like my name was William Dafoe. I was flabbergasted. Now, what I like about this interpretation compared to the other live action films like Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, and the Jean-Claude Van Damme film is that it seems to be honoring the actual Street Fighter franchise, which again, I like, no diss. However, much like other fans of the Street Fighter franchise, I have some of my own conflicting opinions in regards to the casting and the directions where they might be going with. I can see that production studios are cashing in on adapting video games into live action or animated films. To be honest with you, this ain't new. They've been doing this since the 1993 live action film Super Mario Bros. With Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, followed by the live action film Mortal Kombat in 95, Resident Evil in 2002, then Silent Hill in 2006. With the success of Sonic the Hedgehog, the animated Super Mario Bros. The movie, and even Mortal Kombat 2021, this is going to continue being a thing. I mean, Legendary Entertainment even made a Minecraft movie, which seemed to be a huge success. God damn, for real? Anyways, where am I going with this? Video games are very hard to adapt into live action films. Fighting games especially, with horror games coming behind at number 2. And the reasons are structural, not talent related. With fighting games, there is no single story spine. Fighting games are built on rivalries, vignettes, tournament logic, and character silhouettes. They don't have a traditional 3-act narrative, a single protagonist journey, and linear cause and effect plotting. A movie demands a spine. Games don't. So that kind of mismatch can cause major difficulties. Another issue that comes up is everyone is the main character. In Street Fighter, Chun-Li, Ryu, Guile, Cammy, Bison, Ken, Akuma, they all matter. In Tekken, the Mishima bloodline is at the forefront, but fans still expect King, Law, Nina, Steve Fox. So a film can't give everyone their arc moment without collapsing under its own weight. Someone always gets shortchanged, and fandom notices that immediately. Then, mechanics don't translate. A fighting game is about repetition, mastery, mind games, spacing, and reads, whereas a movie fight is about forward momentum, escalation, and narrative payoffs. You can't film footsies, you have to reinterpret them, and that's where adaptations usually panic and default to generic action choreography. Then there's the tonal whiplash that's built in. Fighting games comfortably hold demons, dictators, wrestlers, schoolgirls, and joke characters. Movies are going to struggle holding that tonal range unless the direction is extremely confident. One wrong note and the camp turns into parody.
Quick! Change the channel!
The same can be applied to live action and even animated adaptations of horror games. Horror games rely on player vulnerability, isolation, agency, and pacing control by fear. Once you remove player control, that fear weakens. That's why you get Resident Evil adaptations that lean into action. It's why you get Silent Hill adaptations that split Silent Hill fans. They can work, but only if they respect atmosphere over plot. With RPGs and platformers, they adapt a bit better because with RPGs, they have a narrative structure while platformers rely on mascots and tone, not psychology. That's why Super Mario Bros. And Sonic the Hedgehog works and Mortal Kombat and Silent Hill struggles. Here's the brutal truth. Fighting games aren't about story. They're about identity, who a character is, how they move, what they represent. A fighting game movie doesn't fail because of budget or CGI. It fails because the filmmakers don't realize they're adapting archetypes, not plots. And until studios truly internalize that, fighting games will remain the hardest boss fight in adaptation history. Now, if I was an exec at, say, Legendary Entertainment, here's how I can see a fighting game adapted into a live action film. You have to pick a face. For Street Fighter, that's either Ryu, Chun-Li, or Guile. For Mortal Kombat, that's either going to be Liu Kang, Scorpion, or Sub-Zero. For Tekken, that's either Kazuya Mishima or Jin Kazama. Because then, when you find the face and you find the film archetype, it fits. And we've actually seen something like this done successfully with Marvel. Captain America was not a superhero film. It was a World War II film starring Steve Rogers. Spider-Man Homecoming was not a superhero film. It was a coming-of-age story starring Peter Parker. And Ant-Man wasn't a superhero film about Ant-Man. It was a heist film starring Scott Lang. You see where I'm going with this? You pick a face, you pick a genre, then you let everyone else orbit that gravity. That's exactly how the MCU cracked the code. The core rule, face first, genre second. A fighting game adaptation collapses when it tries to be an ensemble showcase, a lore dump, a character select screen in movie form. It works when it's a specific type of movie that happens to star a fighting game character. That's the difference. So let's break it down a little bit more using Street Fighter as the example. Ryu, the eternal warrior, wandering monk. The movie becomes a martial arts pilgrimage film. Chun-Li, justice-driven investigator. The movie becomes an international crime thriller. Guile, the soldier with unfinished business. The movie becomes G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there. You cannot do all three equally. You must choose the length. Going back to the MCU and the model they apply that worked, the superhero is not the genre. Crazy, I know. The superhero is the mask the genre wears. And that's where fighting game movies keep making that same mistake. Because they're thinking the IP is the genre. It's not. So if I was an exec working at Legendary and I had to lock in, the one question I'd ask early is, what kind of movie is this actually? Right? Because once I have the face of the film, then everyone else becomes allies and obstacles, not co-protagonists. Not to mention, you have to get the right director and the right kind of writers, because your director is going to be who makes or breaks the film. Now, here's a question for you. In a movie called Street Fighter, who do you think should be the star of the film? I'll give you a moment to think. Got your answer? It's Ryu. Why? Because if you make Chun-Li the star of the film, then the movie becomes a crime thriller. And if you make Guile the star of the film, then the movie becomes an action thriller. And when you see this and this, does the words Street Fighter come to mind? Street Fighter is not just an IP name, it's a mode of conflict. Street fighting implies no institutions, no badges, no armies, no official authority, and no sanctioned battlefield. It's personal, it's raw. It's two people meeting in violence because there is nowhere else for that conflict to go. That is Ryu's world by default. A Guile movie, done correctly, becomes military operations, chain of commands, revenge missions, and geopolitical stakes. That's not Street Fighter, that's state violence. Even if fists are thrown, the context is I am acting as a soldier. That shifts the movie into 80s action thriller and war-adjacent revenge cinema, which can be great, but it's no longer Street Fighter. It's Commando with the Hadouken. The same goes for a Chun-Li movie. If done right, the film becomes investigation, law enforcement, criminal networks, surveillance and strategy. Again, fantastic genre territory. But the conflict is I am enforcing justice. That's not street fighting either. That's crime cinema. The fights become arrests, raids, and interrogations, not raw clashes of will between fighters who exist outside systems. Ryu is fighting in alleys, temples, clubs, and underground tournaments, right? Because his conflicts are internal, honor-based, spiritual, and personal. That is street fighting in its purest form. Even the tournament framing isn't official in a modern sense. It's underground, shadowy, unregulated. Chun-Li and Guile are essential pillars of the universe. They deserve movies, but they are spin-offs, not foundations. Ryu isn't just the face of Street Fighter, he is the definition of it. So if it were up to me, and Legendary Entertainment came knocking out my door talking about, "Hey Brent, since you know about Street Fighter, why don't you make this damn movie?" And they gave me a great budget to work with, no studio politics and interference, and I had a solid writing team, I would focus on my director, because they are going to give this film an identity. And who could do that better than none other than Isaac Florentine? Huh? Oh, my bad. If you have never seen the films Undisputed 2, Last Man Standing, and Undisputed 3, Redemption, let me show you a few fighting clips from both films. Yeah, good choice, right? And if I'm choosing Isaac Florentine as my director with Ryu as the star of my film, then what kind of movie is this? Here's my idea. We use Enter the Dragon and Rocky as reference points for this movie. We turn Street Fighter into Street Fighter: The World Warrior, a martial arts sports drama. And with Isaac Florentine at the helm, you don't lose that campiness that Legendary Entertainment is trying to go for. Then I would figure out what kind of story I want to tell. That's where the source materials come in. The best two sources to loosely, keyword loosely, pull from would be the very first Street Fighter game from 1987 and Street Fighter Alpha. So our protagonist would be Ryu, because duh. Our deuteragonist would be Ken Masters, because, well, that's the Vegeta to our Goku, the Sasuke to our Naruto. And the big bad is obviously going to be Sagat. Didn't expect that now, did you? Okay, why am I picking Sagat as Ryu's big bad? Isn't the villain of Street Fighter M. Bison? Well, to the casual viewer who's never played Street Fighter, sure. But for any of the lore heads who have played Street Fighter, already knows M. Bison was never Ryu's big bad. M. Bison was more of a villain for Chun-Li, Guile, and Cammy because M. Bison had personal connections to them. For Chun-Li, M. Bison murdered her father, which set her down the path to becoming an Interpol agent and bringing M. Bison to justice. For Guile, M. Bison had Charlie Nash, Guile's best friend and mentor, murdered, setting him down the path of revenge. And for Cammy, she was one of M. Bison's brainwashed dolls until she broke free from Bison's control, gained her own autonomy, and joined Delta Red in apprehending M. Bison and bringing down Shadow Lu. M. Bison never really had that personal connection to Ryu besides hosting the World Warrior tournament. You can still keep M. Bison, Shadow Lu, and his Grandmasters, but they become a subplot rather than the main focus. So now that we got all that situated, that just leaves the casting. And while I like some of the casting choices, I feel like it can be tweaked. First and foremost, keep Kalina Liang as Chun-Li. Her visual aesthetic is perfect and she nails the elegant stoic demeanor perfectly. You can keep Jason Momoa as Blanca, you can keep Hiraoki Goto as E Honda, Vidyet as Dawson, and Olivier as Zangief. But here's the catch. They are actually going to be the characters that will be shortchanged, meaning they're not going to get a whole lot of screen time compared to the main cast. They'll just be the fighters who are shown in some kind of fighting montage. Now, the other casting choices I'm tweaking because of my own personal biases, because I feel like they would not only fit the character aesthetically, but also as the best portrayal of that character. So the biggest one for me is Andrew Koji, the actor portraying Ryu. Honestly, I would cast him as Ken Masters instead of Ryu, because what most people don't know, and even I didn't know, is that Ken Masters is not a blonde Caucasian man. Yeah, shocking, I know. He's half Japanese and half Caucasian. The man is Asian, and Andrew Koji is English and Japanese. For Ryu, I would cast Brian T. Don't need to explain myself, the casting choice does it for me. For Dan Hibiki, instead of Andrew Scholes, really, I would cast Simu Liu. In the games, Dan Hibiki was a parody of SNK's characters Ryo Sakazaki and Robert Garcia from the Art of Fighting franchise. Dan Hibiki is loud, delusional, passionate, yet somehow still endearing. Yeah, he's a joke character, but he's also sincere about his own nonsense. Simu Liu can absolutely walk that tightrope because he's really good at playing characters who know they're being ridiculous without turning smug about it. Dan needs to be funny because he believes in himself too much, not because the movie's pointing and laughing at him. And Simu can actually sell the martial arts joke. Dan is funny because he tries, he almost gets it, and he refuses to quit. Simu has legit martial arts chops, which is crucial. Dan's comedy works best when the fundamentals are there, but the execution is off. Someone who can move convincingly makes the Saikyo style bits land harder. Dan will also be an important part for the B plot of the movie. Yeah, this guy is actually going to play an important role in Street Fighter: The World Warrior. Why? Because in the actual Street Fighter lore, Dan Hibiki trained under the same master with Ryu and Ken. But how does he have a connection with Sagat? Well, in Street Fighter Alpha, which this movie is going to be loosely based on, it's revealed that Sagat was actually responsible for the death of Dan's father, Go Hibiki. So Dan wants his revenge, and that revenge is going to be the B plot of the movie. Moving on, Balrog will still play a role in the film. Personally, I would have casted either Winston Duke or Jonathan Majors had he had not had his controversies as Balrog or 50 Cent, but we'll see what Curtis brings to the table. However, his role would be very small, and same with Vega, though I would have gone with Daniel Bruhl instead, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. Just like Balrog, he would also play a small role in this film. David Dastmalchian as M. Bison, while an out there kind of pick, doesn't really give me dictator vibes. He instead gives me cult leader vibes. I personally would have gone with Javier Bardem as M. Bison. I would still keep Mel Johnson as Cammy White, but from the looks of this shot, it looks like they're going to make her into a femme fatale, and that's not really an accurate portrayal of Cammy, given that they're using her Killer Bee persona. Cammy, when she was under the mind control of M. Bison, was essentially a female version of the Terminator. Everything about her is mechanical, precise, and cold. The ideal killer doll. Cammy is not seductive first. She's not manipulative, and she's not playing games. Cammy is a soldier, a weapon who gains selfhood, blunt, emotionally guarded, and hyper direct. More knife in a dark hallway than spy in a cocktail dress. Even in the Street Fighter 2 and old animations, she comes off as mission oriented, not coquettish. Her sex appeal is incidental, not intentional. If Legendary Entertainment goes this route, putting Cammy into the femme fatale angle, you risk losing her trauma, her rigidity, and her quiet humanity. Having her flirt, pose, or lean into sensual dominance would feel off. Almost like they're borrowing from Black Widow or generic action thriller tropes instead of respecting what makes Cammy distinct. Cammy doesn't disarm you with charm. She disarms you by already being behind you. I would keep Reina as Julie. That's fine. Just like Vega and Balrog, she would also play a minor role. Perhaps Chun-Li and Guile discovering M. Bison's doll program as a C plot of the film. Speaking of Guile, I would have gone with Triple H as the portrayal. Guile's portrayal in Street Fighters 4, 5, and 6 gives the impression that Guile is both gung-ho and someone who takes himself too damn seriously. I mean, you tell me, when you see this, don't you think this cat takes himself too damn seriously?
Mission start. No need for talk. Let's do this.
I'm just on another level.
I don't know, bro. All I know is I would have hired Triple H for this role. But now, all that just leaves is Sagat, Ryu's antagonist, his big bad. With Sagat in this film, I would cast Ken Kitagawa. Granted, he's not 7'6" tall, but he doesn't have to be. He just has to embody Sagat's presence, brutality, and honor twisted by pride. Kitagawa can sell Fallen King energy, and Florentine would shoot him like a myth anyways. The camera can make a man taller, and there you have it. This would be the ideal casting choice for a Street Fighter movie, with Sagat as the big bad, as the A plot, Dan Hibiki's comedic revenge being the B plot, with Chun-Li and Guile's investigation into Shadowloo, the dolls, Balrog, Vega, Cammy, and Julie being the C plot of the film, all setting up for the true master of the fist, Akuma, who would not be in this film. Yeah, the biggest bad in this universe, and he will not be in this film. Akuma should not be introduced like a normal character. He's not a villain of the week. He's a threshold. By keeping him out of the main film, he stays unknown because he feels bigger than Sagat. And because he feels bigger than Sagat, he reframes everything we just watched. The audience leaves thinking, wait, that wasn't even the real ceiling? Because that's exactly how Akuma functions in the games. Instead, he'd be a post-credits reveal, setting up for a sequel. Roman Reigns could still be casted as Akuma. I think he looks great. Others may disagree, but I believe he looks the part. And because he would be a post-credits reveal, he wouldn't need to read any lines or do a lot of acting. He just needs to have his back to the camera, and then I appreciate y'all for sticking around to the end of this video. It was something that has been floating in my mind for a cool minute. Marvel has made some pretty good live action movie adaptations, and DC is starting to follow suit with the DCU franchise under James Gunn. And with studios now wanting to make live action or even animated adaptations of video games, I can definitely see this as being the next big new hotness, but only if it's done right. But now, I want to hear from y'all. Who would you cast as Chun-Li, Ryu, or Akuma? What's one thing this movie has to get right? Drop your dream casting and scene ideas down below. Hit that like button if you grew up on Street Fighter, and subscribe if you're trying to see more breakdowns like this. I'm Jeiko, and I put the KO in this breakdown, and that's a knockout. Blow. Days need to make the days count. Cut back, spinning hammers, get my dollars up. Check back in reality and follow up. I can't wait until the day we finally blow up like volcanoes. We the bomb, feels amazing. I could buy my mom a house.